So when I retire, which probably never going to happen, but when I stop making music, I think I'll just do an Ask Me Anything live every day. Like, I think that would be a really cool life to just rock up in the morning, chat for an hour, answer questions, and then go. Maybe I need to try that. Maybe that can be my Vlogmas, my Christmas time when I'm having a bit of downtime. Maybe instead of making tutorials and writing music and doing all the preparation, I just rock up and say, hey, folks, got any questions? And then we just go for it. I hope you're doing well. If it's your first time here, my name is Pete, and this is Studio Live Today. This is our Ask Me Anything, which we do every couple of weeks just to give my brain a break for starters, but to give you the opportunity to ask anything at all that you've been thinking about, anything that's been on your mind for the last day, week, month, lifetime, you can ask it. And we've got the folks who are here live on YouTube and Facebook. So if you are here live and you do want to ask a question, all you need to do is put the word question at the start of your comment. So I've even put it up the top there. I'm organized today. So at the top, there's a question there, that a comment that will say, if you have a question, that's what you need to do. We are brought to you today by Studio Live Today, which is where you're at. So if you do want to pick yourself up a Studio Live Today, but I realise that I kind of need my mugs to have the handle on the other side, because when I'm drinking, I kind of have to hold it like that, and if I hold it with the handle, it goes like that. But anyway, if you want to be confused by the handles on your coffee mug, go to studiolivetoday.com/merch and check it out. I like this. I posted on the Create, Record, Release Facebook group just before the show. And I said, get your weekend started right. We've got an epic double header. We've got this show, and then straight after this show, we go into Jade on her How to App series interviewing Tom Rochelle, and that's going to be a good time. And I said, yeah, come along. And James over at the Facebook group, shout out to you, says, is there any chance the hokey pokey really is what it's all about? If you don't know the hokey pokey, it's you put your left foot in, you put your left foot out, you put your left foot in, you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn around, and that's what it's all about. So I think it is, James. I think the hokey pokey is what it's all about. And weirdly enough, my brain's gone there before too. Every time I sing that song, or every time I hear that song, I'm like, that's what it's all about. I'm like, I've had it wrong. Here I was thinking that life is about, fulfillment and happiness and helping your fellow man and woman. But no, it's about the hokey pokey. So who knew? Speaking of hokey pokey, not a segue at all. Gary Hubbs, question, will the tow truck arrive to take my scrap vehicle away in time for me to be back in time? Happy tow truck occasion, not sad tow truck. Getting rid of the old banger, the old clanger, the old clasher, the old crasher, maybe. I hope so. I really hope that gets sorted for you, Gary, or Gaza, as we call you here in Australia. How old are you? I'm 41, and I actually have to stop and think about how old I am every time I'm asked this. And I was saying to my wife just last night, in fact, I said, I was born in 79. I'm like, oh, I'm a child of the 70s. I said, I wish I was born in 1980, so it would make the sums easier. Because in 2020, I could just go, I'm 40. And then in 2021, I could just go, well, 80, 41. But no, I have to add that pesky extra year. But it could be worse. I could be like her and born in 77, and that would make life way, way harder. Hello to everyone, by the way. Nina's here, Mark, Deep Gravity, Scarfan, who just asked a question. Kim's in the house, Gary, as we said, Andy and Stu. Andy and Stu. Stu sent me a track for Your Music Live tomorrow. And then Andy chimes in and says, helps if you send the links, Stu. And they both send it to me together. So I responded to them saying, the only question I have now is, when does the solo come in? Because I need to know when to fade it out. So, as you know, if you've watched Your Music Live, my live music show here, that is what we do. We wait for the solo, wait for the best bit of the song, and then we turn it down. No, it's not really true. We tend to just play about a minute to a minute and a half of a song, and that tends to be where your guitar solo lands, right there in the middle. So, go figure. Just scrolling through to see who we haven't said g'day to. Here's a good question. How did you grow on YouTube? Almost by accident would be the thing. No, I've talked about this a few times, and it's a good segue. I'll use this as, because how do you grow on things? You be a shameless self-promoter, don't you? So how did I grow on YouTube? it was about grinding it out and about, I don't know, people hate, the grind and the hustle culture and all that sort of thing. But it really is about slow and steady. There is no cheat hack, growth hack way to do things. And if you do some of the things that some people say you should do to do that, ends up backfiring usually. So it is about community. That's my number one tip on this. It's that social media, whatever social media you want to grow on, what a lot of folks forget is it's a two-way medium. So you need to be doing as much listening and reading of other people's content as creating your own. I think when folks come out of the gate, they come out super fast and they're like, create, recreate, create. And then the only time they're interacting is when they're trying to promote what they've created. The key to success I've seen from successful people that are creating YouTube channels, creating Instagram followings, TikTok, I don't care where you're at. Whatever it is, it's those who actually engage with their viewers through responding and answering comments, through listening to what people are saying, through taking on board suggestions, through checking out other people's content and joining communities, Facebook groups, forums, Reddit, whatever it is, whatever's in your particular area. So that's probably, whenever I'm asked this, that's my number one tip is, two-way communication, two-way open and honest communication. Don't be a DICK, so be good, be nice to people. And make sure that you're leveraging that two-way communication. Not even leveraging, that makes it sound bad. That makes it sound like you're trying to leverage someone, use and abuse. Excuse me. Let me know if the audio is coming through okay, by the way. I'm using a weird setup here today. I am still on my Mac. So if you watched the last show I did about streaming for the first time on a Mac, I'm still on my Mac M1 Mini. I am loving it. Warts and all. So it has its problems, it's having its teething issues, it's having its growing pains because it doesn't support my Zoom Live Track, which is the mixer I use to do live streaming. So today I'm going out of the Zoom Live Track, which is still plugged into my old PC. I'm going into my Steinberg UR22C via a stereo input here, and then that is the audio that you're hearing. So it means that I've still got everything I can do with my mixer. I can still add some reverb and bring in the other channels, but it does mean that I'm going through an extra analog bit. So I had to very carefully, and thank you, shout out to my patrons again, patreon.com/PeteJohns, if you want to become one of them. Shout out to my patrons who helped me troubleshoot some of the audio last night. We got it working pretty well in the end, I reckon. All right, we've got some more questions coming through. We've got Matthew Ray saying, question, to get better, would you rather write 200 songs that are 75% done? The main idea of the song is there, but lyrics aren't final for the sake of writing more, or write 30 songs that are 100% done? What a brilliant question. This is kind of the crux of my channel. So those of you that have been around a while are going to know the answer. And funnily enough, it was legitimately on my list of things to talk about here. I'll prove, I don't know why anyone would think I'm not telling the truth on that, but if I throw up, I've only got 4 ideas I thought here. So I want to talk about being full-time in music, imposter syndrome, which is an important one, vanity metrics, within your music. So, I want to get follows on Spotify. I want to get on playlists. I want to get subscribers. They're all vanity metrics. And finishing songs. So let's start. Let's talk about finishing thongs. Finishing thongs is a different thing, especially if you're in the United States or Canada, where a thong means something different. Here it's a flip-flop. It's the thing you put on your foot. I believe it can be underwear in other parts of the world. So we'll take a quick sip of coffee, and then I'll let you know why finishing songs is essential. So when you're starting out, recording and creating and recording and releasing, the reason that my mantra here is create, record, release is that I think that the release is as important as the creating and the recording. So when you're writing a song, you'll sit down, you've got an idea, you've got the hook, you've got the chorus, you've got the verse, whatever it is that you've got, and then you build it out and you get it to a point. And like you say here, if you've got 75% of it done, you're like, yeah, that's pretty much right. The temptation is to move on to something new. Our brains want new and shiny, right? We don't want to complete it. We don't want to guts it out, because that last 25% can often be the hardest, yeah? So it would be like if you're a sprinter, if you're a 100-meter sprinter, if you just sprint 75 meters and then stop and go, I got the idea now, and then do that over and over again, and you never learn how to finish the race and do that last 25%, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. So I think it's the same with music. I think the important part is finishing. And the reason that it's not only important for you, your own growth, your own psyche, it's important because then you can share it. And a lot of people say art isn't art until it's shared. Well, yeah, whether you believe in that or not, I think that the best way to improve your music is to get feedback about your music, to get open and honest feedback. And again, I'm going to throw in a shameless plug here for the Create, Record, Release group, because that's a group I started on Facebook for this exact reason, to help people that were writing a lot of music, recording a lot of music, but not actually finishing and sharing and releasing a lot of music. So that release component, I think, is super important. I'll give you me as an example. I used to write a lot of songs. So I've got probably over 100, again, 75% finished songs. And it was only 5 years ago when I started this channel, in 2017 when I recorded my first EP, that I went, I need to finish a project. I'm not finishing anything. I'm not going to get anywhere until I finish something. So I had 4 songs. I recorded them. I finished them. I put them on an EP. I released them. And then I started getting feedback. And then I learned so much from that process. You can actually go back. There's a video I did that was 10 lessons learned recording my first EP. And it's quite fun to watch now back, 4 years later. But I learned so much from doing that that I could then develop and move into the next one. So that's why I think it's so important, is that every time you finish a project, if you get feedback, you'll learn what worked well, what did I nail, what worked not so well, what do I need to improve on for next time. So that is my advice on that one, I think. And if others here in the chat chime in, let me know if you have different views, because it's an interesting topic that I enjoy talking about. Footballer club, is there a way to see ghost notes in GarageBand iPhone? So, sort of. If you're using something like Drummer in GarageBand on iPhone, there are ghost notes in some of the drums, and they'll just be, because all a ghost note is, is a very low velocity note. So if you're not familiar with ghost notes, like if you hear a drummer and they're like, it's those little bits, those little hits that aren't full on bang that you're hearing in between. So if you look at a MIDI pattern that has ghost notes in it for a drum pattern, those ghost notes are just going to be very low velocity little notes that are just a little tap that are really low velocity. So short answer is yes. If you go to the piano roll editor in GarageBand or any other platform and you've got a drum track that's using ghost notes, those ghost notes are going to be there. They're just going to be very short usually, and usually very low velocity or low volume. Tom Rochelle's in the house. Bubba's in the house. There's a lot of other folks here, but we'll jump to the next one that has question in front of it, which is from our buddy Kyle's TV. What's an editing feature you wish was in GarageBand? I wish you could automate panning, and I wish you could automate effects. So that's the one thing that, if I could say there's a limitation. When I started using Cubasis and we had automation of everything, that was rough. Going back from Cubasis to GarageBand and not being able to automate panning and automate other things. You can use hacks and workarounds, which I've showed here on the channel. You can create a second track that's just an effects track and automate that. So there are ways to do it. But yeah, that automation is probably the one. Editing specifically, time stretching. Yeah, so the ability to just grab a piece of audio that's 1.8 seconds and stretch it out to 2 seconds so that it can line up to a loop or a beat. That would be cool. And that's something I know a lot of folks are asking for. So they would be the two things. Oh, Mark, I'm sorry, waiting for delivery of my new Mac, but there seems to be a problem with UPS again. Oh, yes, I did want to say this up front, and I forgot to, because I get into this. I just wanted to say, for folks that are in parts of the world where I know that there's some rough times happening at the moment, I just wanted to let you know that I'm seeing, I'm hearing, I hear you. The reason I don't talk about a lot on this channel is I like this to be your escape. So we're just going to talk about music. We're going to have some fun. We're going to have a chat and a banter. And it doesn't mean that I don't completely understand or at least appreciate some of the things that are happening, which are really not cool in many parts of the world. And I was thinking about this beforehand, and I'm like, if anything, the only thing I'll say about that is that it's proving that when we are divisive, that things are so much harder, and we need to find ways to come together. And I know, some people will say, Pete, that's woo-woo, that's hippie, that's nonsense. No, I think we've seen it here in the music industry. We've seen it in the Create, Record, Release Facebook group. We've seen it in this community that, being unified, regardless of your thoughts and your views. If everyone is just doing what they can to help other people, to help other humans, and to help yourself, because I say that at the end of every show, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and keep creating. I think if we could find ways to do more of that and less of the divisive stuff, we'd be better off. But that's as political as I'm going to get, because it's not my bag and it's not my place. But it's I just wanted to say that because I am thinking of you all. I know I'm super duper lucky to be living here in Australia, where we are doing pretty well at the moment. But hey, stuff changes, so I'm not going to sit here and be at a glass house throwing stones, right? Let's see. Some good coffee. It tastes better from a Studio Live Today mug. No, not really. There you go. Hippies rule. Agreed. Hippies for the win. Let's see if we've got any other questions. I think I've seen the word question here. Excuse me. See, I can have a cough now because I've got my mixer back. One moment. Oh, you know what? I'm on the wrong setting here. It didn't go down. You know what? I'm not going to touch it. Oh, hang on. There we go. Okay. Right. There we go. Yeah, I'm having a few issues with the audio and the setup here, but anyway, we will continue on. Am I British? No, I am not. I am Australian, as you probably now know, because I was talking about that. But here's the thing. I talk with it's an Australian accent, and Australians know that I'm Australian, but I do get told that I'm English probably about as much as I do get told that I'm Australian, and I think it's because I'm from South Australia, so... and apology, I'm going to be slightly offensive here, not really. But in South Australia, we talk a little bit more like the Queen's English because we're a little bit more snobby, to be very honest. So as you go further north in Australia, the accent kind of goes a little bit more nasal, and you get a little bit more in the back of the voice, and that's the classic Australian. And then when you go further north, you get that, but you slow down a bit, and that's where everyone thinks Crocodile Dundee is the Australian voice, where he's like, that's not a knife, that's a knife. But yeah, a lot of us don't actually talk quite like that. That's the cliche. That would be like me saying that people in America are like, hey, let's go down and get ourselves a pig and put her on the spit. Woohoo! Like that. That's the very cliched version of language. Anyway, I don't know where I got to with that, but I am not British. I am Australian. Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are young and free. That's our national anthem. Andrew says, how do you approach writing vocal parts when you're not a vocalist? It's probably the same way that I approach writing drum parts when I'm not a drummer, with difficulty. So I tend to get Jade Starr to do it. No, it's a good point and a good question. How do you approach writing vocal parts when you're not a vocalist? Learn from other vocalists. Listen to your favorite music. This is what I love. People miss this point. Is that if you love music, you should be listening to a lot of music. And listen to the music that you love, but do critical listening. So sit down with headphones on, grab yourself a cup of coffee or whatever your beverage of choice is, sit down with a pair of headphones on and just listen to like your 10 favorite artists and listen to what they write in their lyrics. Listen to the tone, the melody, the structure, the words that they're using, and just take notes, either mental notes if you're not as big a nerd as me, or actually write down and get ideas. And then as soon as you've done that, sit down and write some vocal phrases. So that's going to help you for a couple of reasons. You're going to learn from the best. Like if you want to create good music and you know what music you like, then listen to the music you like and create music that's like that. People say, oh, but if I do that, then I'm going to be too heavily influenced. We all seem to be terrified that we're going to plagiarize. Everyone is plagiarizing. There are 12 notes in a scale. You're not going to really be able to invent anything brand new. No one's found the 13th note. Well, they have, but then you're into weird scales in different types of music. So, no, there's 12 notes in your standard scale, so you're not going to find something completely brand new. But that's my biggest tip for that. When you're approaching vocal parts when you're not a vocalist, is learn from other vocalists and talk to other vocalists. Join communities like this one. Chat to other people who are vocalists, or at the end of the day, play to your strengths. Get someone else to write your vocal parts. Collaborate with someone else who is great at writing vocal parts. Again, that's what I do with drums. I struggled my way through drums for a long time. Then I realized that there are people better than me who want to play on my songs, aka Jade. And I said, go your hardest. And it's been good from there. Checking again. Question from Guzzo. Hello to you, Guzzo of Oz. Question, are you torn between GarageBand iOS and GarageBand Mac? Can you see yourself heading down the Mac track in the future? It's a good question. I don't know. Right now I say I don't know, and I don't think so. But keep in mind, this is someone who a year ago was never going to buy a Mac. I couldn't see where I would want to buy a Mac. and now I have one, and now I'm using one right now, and it's cool. So never say never. But yeah, I think I will use GarageBand and I will experience it, but it'll be more of a series of, hey, watch this clown that doesn't know how to use GarageBand on Mac stumble and fumble his way through. At 5 calls to Patrick later, I'll maybe be okay. But yeah, it's a good question. There's not much lacking in GarageBand iOS for the music that I create that I would need anymore. But that being said, GarageBand Mac does look cool. It's shiny. It has things like automation of effects. It has some of those. It has a master track. It has some of those things. And don't even get me started on Logic. We could, yeah, we're gonna have to explore that at some stage. Speaking of Logic. Tom Rochelle is a very logical man. No, he's he uses Logic. Are you on the new Mac and how are you liking it so far? I am, and I'm liking it. So I'm on the new Mac, and yeah, I've been doing some testing the last few days, and I'm liking it. The problem is that it's not liking me. So I have a couple of major problems, and I've mentioned these a few times. And if anyone has any suggestions or ideas, please let me know. Number one is that my Zoom live track doesn't work. Now, that's not anything someone can solve because I think Zoom just need to update their drivers. Number two is that every time I turn it on, my refresh rate on my screen, the display settings, changes back to 60 hertz. So I just get this flickering mess until I change it every single time. That's a pain in the ass. And the other one was my webcam. So the Logitech G Hub software wasn't working very well. I'm now actually using different software. So I'll show you what I'm using. On Patrick's advice from the GarageBand guide, I have shelled out $12.99 in Aussie dollar bucks to get this, which is actually pretty good. It's called Webcam Settings, and it's just a simple way to come in here and dial in brightness, contrast, saturation, and it does have exposure time. So that's why I'm looking a little bit more nicely lit and exposed here today, because I've been playing around with that. So still tweaking it because it's not exactly the same, but we are getting there. So yeah, the jury's still out, but we're getting there. And yes, this is a Mac live show. Yes, so I am on the Mac today. Now I'm moving up and down through the chat here, so I know I've missed stuff. So if you had a question more than 10 minutes ago, maybe ask it again. I normally say don't repeat yourself, but you may have to ask it again because I've lost my spot and the chat moves so quickly that it's hard for me to keep up, which is a good problem to have. Yeah, Gary says my happy tow truck is here. Be right back with $350. There you go. Money for jam. I like it. Kev, yeah, I like this, Kev. Even if it's not a great song, it's better to finish and move on to the next. Yeah, exactly. There's a sense of accomplishment and achievement when you actually finish a song, even if it's not great. And I'd say especially if it's not great. Can I send you a link to that Facebook group? Yeah, so it's just, I'll put it down here. Jay's probably beaten me to it, but I'll put a link here in the chat anyway for anyone who's watching right now. You can get there just by going to createrecordrelease.com. So it's actually quite simple. So just go to http://createrecordrelease.com, and that will send you right to the Create Record Release Facebook group. Question here from Danny Broderick. Pete, do you use any pedal effect or guitar processors in front of your Steinberg? No, I don't. I've never used, and maybe it's something I do need to do in the future. No, I've gone through my mixer. So at the moment I'm through my mixer. So I've got a little light EQ on my vocal through the mixer that's then going into the Steinberg. I know folks like Tom Rochelle use like pedals and use effects going in for vocals and the like. I tend to be an in-the-box, after-the-fact kind of guy. So I mostly use plugins that are actually in the DAW, so in GarageBand or Cubasis or wherever I'm recording to. I'll do the processing there, except for live, where of course I need to do it on the fly. So when I need to add in a little reverb if I'm doing a live show, or if I need to EQ some my guitar or my vocal, then I can do that right there on the mixer. But as far as other outboard gear goes, no, I don't. But doesn't mean I shouldn't. In fact, I have a cool little processor. I'll see if it's within reach. Yeah, it is. So I bought this like years ago, and I used it a few times, and I haven't really used it since. It's made by Moore, and it's this little sucker here. It's the Moore GE100, and it's an effects processor. It's got an expression pedal there for your wah, and it's got a couple of kicks in there. You can dial in different settings. It's powered up here via battery, or you can actually plug it in. And yeah, I've not used this much at all. So maybe this needs to go. Either I need to get in and use it again, or it needs to go in my end of year blowout sale where I'm where I'm offloading a lot of my gear on eBay. So yeah, if you're here in Australia, by the way, and you're looking for gear, hit me up. I've got a bunch of used gear before I go to the effort of eBaying or Facebook grouping or whatever it is. Yeah, if you're after some quality secondhand gear and you're in Australia, because yeah, I don't at the moment shipping internationally A takes forever, B costs a fortune, and C may never show up. So probably not a good deal. But yeah, thanks for the question, Danny. Question. Emobot 9000. Emobot 9000. I like that. Have you ever had an instrument or effect sound completely different after you export to a WAV file? So, sort of. So the main reason why this happens, in my experience, when you're exporting and it sounds completely different, is to do with normalization or limiting that's happening on your overall master. So if you're listening to something, especially in GarageBand. So GarageBand is notorious for this. GarageBand protects you from yourself pretty much. So if you overload GarageBand and you've got things going too loud, when you're playing it back within GarageBand, it sounds okay, yeah? It's when you export it that what tends to happen, and when effects sound different, is that they'll usually sound like quite pumping. Because when you export in GarageBand on your iPhone or iPad, it uses something called auto normalization. What that means is it makes sure that the peaks are at 0. Now, if your peaks are below 0 anyway, all it's going to do is increase the overall total volume of your track. However, the problem is if you have peaks of your track that are above 0, it's going to flatten them down. It's actually going to limit rather than just normalize. So if you've got, this is why I say, don't have your tracks too loud in GarageBand. Turn them down, because if they're too loud, then when it does its finalization process, when it does its normalization, it's going to make those tracks sound very different, because it's going to add this pumping effect. Because every time, especially you've got like a kick drum, that's the classic. If you've got a big kick drum, big bass drum, or big bass 808 kicking in, it's going to go. And some people like that. Some people deliberately create that with a side chaining type effect. But if you're not going for that effect, but you're finding when you're exporting your songs, you're getting that effect, it is usually, commonly, 80% of the time, because the overall volume of your tracks is too loud. If you turn them all down, or use a little hack where you use the FX trick. And I don't have my iPad showable here, but what you basically do is add in an FX track, then go to the EQ on that track, and turn it down. If you search my name and Master Track Hack, so Pete John's Master Track Hack, you're going to be able to find what that's all about. Alrighty, yes, amen. I know, amen to panning on automating panning and effects. This is good coffee. Hey Pete, how do you grow a fan base? We did cover that right at the start. Two-way, open and honest communication. Don't just spend your time online telling people what you're doing. Engage with them and what they're doing. And remember that social media is a two-way platform. It is not old media. New media is two-way. It didn't let me share my link. It worked on one, but not the other. Now, where was I up to? Oh, I've lost it. I've lost the spot I was up to, so I've probably flicked past a whole bunch of questions, and I apologize for that. I will come back up here because I've seen a couple of questions up here. There's where we're up to. Question: is there a recovery file somewhere? I was working on a project and did not save it, then it crashed. Does iOS GB autosave as you go along somewhere? You're probably telling by my tone and body language that no, it does not. So yeah, and I'm going to tell you this after the fact, and you're going to say, yeah, thanks, Pete, that's really helpful. Save often, save frequently, save all the time. Whenever you do a major change to your GarageBand project, not only save, but use version control. So to save in GarageBand, again, all you do is tap in the top left corner. That's going to close out. You know what I can do? I'm going to go super lo-fi here, and I'm just going to grab my iPad because I've got it in front of me here. So here's a song that I'm working on at the moment, right? I've got it going on here. I just need to tap in the top left. That's going to close it and save it. What I mean by version control is before I do any major changes to this project, I'm going to tap and hold on it until we get the wiggles. I'm going to hit duplicate and see how it's done that. It's put a 2 next to it. This is my recommendation. When you're working on a project, about every I usually end up with about 10 versions. So about every 30 minutes to an hour, depending on your process and what you do, duplicate out your project, then work on that version, then duplicate, work on that version. It just means if you do something completely heinous, or you corrupt your project, or it fails to save, or something happens, then you're going to be covered. So that is something that I recommend that you keep in mind. No, it won't help you for the one that you've lost. Unfortunately, yeah, there is no autosave. It's not going to work, and I apologize for that. Question from Can Kaya. Question: Can you recommend a similar plugin to MFO1? Yes, so MFO1, that was the. So this is VBO1, DLO1, MFO1. MFO1 was the filter, wasn't it? The EQ. Yes, I mean LRC5 is still great for EQ. It's a free EQ plugin for iOS. I love that one. There's a bunch of other EQs. Let me just go in. I'll go to my project because I use LRC5 so much. I mean, the new Mixbox CS has a whole bunch of filters. In fact, that's probably what I do. I know it's not cheap, but I reviewed it at the start of the week. But Mixbox CS from IK Multimedia, that has a bunch of different EQs and filters. It's not free. It's like $40. But if you want like a one plugin to rule them all, that thing's got like reverbs and delays and compressors, like 1176 clone compressors. It's got amps and pedals and distortion effects. Plus, it's got a whole bunch of EQs, like different sorts of EQs that are going to give you some really interesting colorization in you. So they're not just going to be LRC5 is great, but it's kind of flat. It's designed to just get the different frequencies in or out of your track. If you want something that's going to give your track a little bit of warmth and analog oomph, then yeah, I'd check out Mixbox CS. Anyway, we'll come on down. Yeah, by the way, Jade, no problem. I know that both Jade and Tom are in 30 minutes time. So I've got 30 minutes more ranting. You're going to look at this mug, and then you're going to need to jump over to Jade Starr's channel and check out her interview with Thomas Christ, which is coming up right after this one. Sion is late. We are all doing well. Thank you. And yes, use both. Use GarageBand. GarageBand and Logic. A lot of folks use GarageBand and Logic, especially if you're doing it on mobile and desktop. You're probably going to do that. Scrolling on down. Is it better to use effects before the interface? Not really. Unless you're doing live, or it's going to help your performance. The one thing that I think sometimes folks miss is if you've, like I used to be, and you recorded everything clean and then worried about effects later, that's okay, but what you can actually do is lose some of that vibe that you get from playing through a cool effect. So I talked about this on a couple of days ago on the show about Mixbox, and that is that if you are playing guitar and you can dial in a really cool tone, then sometimes it can make you play better. Does anyone else notice that? Yeah, give me a hashtag heck yeah if you notice that as well. But sometimes just hearing a cool tone as you're playing, hearing some cool reverb on your vocals. So when I'm singing, I'll have some of this because just hearing that reverb coming back into your vocal can really help out and it can make you perform better. So I don't think you necessarily need to go through, as in hard bake in your effects, but I think sometimes singing or playing through some effects on the way in can actually help you and can give you a better sound and a better performance, in my humble opinion. Yeah, hardware is too much work. That's why I stick to iPad. Here. And even setting up this Mac Mini, I've been craving my iPad. Like I've been craving just having everything there in one and knowing that I can just plug everything in. And it's been a bit weird that with the Mac, things have been less compatible than they have with my iPad, which is bizarre. Actually, that's a As I say that out loud, I just had an interesting thought. I wonder. I can put my Zoom Live track into audio interface mode, and it's got two modes. It's got Mac or PC, and it's got iOS. I'm wondering if I put it in iOS mode and plug it into my Mac, given that it will then be class compliant, is that going to work? There you go. Just had a random thought. A headache with pictures. Question from Isaiah. Hello, Isaiah. Have you had any problems with Mixbox? I haven't been able to use any guitar presets, and when I do, I hear this loud popping sound, and the whole track goes silent as if it's crashed. Yeah, so some of your tracks with some instruments have got, there is a bug at the moment. So when we did the video, IK Multimedia, who they're hitting it out of the park at the moment. So the support that they've given me through this has been really cool. I know that like Russ and Mark and folks, I know you've had some problems with the registering and getting the additional sounds. So we probably don't have time to cover that today or to try it out, but I will be trying that over the weekend. But yeah, what was my point here? Yeah, so that there is some issues, especially in GarageBand, where sometimes some sounds you put in, it will just completely turn off your sound. And as soon as you take it off, it comes back again. I'd experienced it a couple of times, and I know Jade experienced the same thing on her show. There's no real workaround for it at the moment, except that they're aware of it and they're looking into it. So they are listening, and hopefully we'll get an updated version. But it doesn't seem to be happening in AUM or Auria or Cubasis or standalone version. It just seems to be a GarageBand thing. So GarageBand, acting as the audio unit host, seems to be having this problem. So hopefully we get a fix real soon. Oh, and by the way, I also let them know about the noise gate, because everyone said that they really wanted the noise gate for their guitars in Mixbox, and they said, yep, they've passed it on to the developers and they're working on it. So there you go. If we see a noise gate, it's all because of you. It's because you were here on the live show. You provided that feedback direct to IK. If we get something out of it, hey, they're going to go up another notch in my book. Alrighty, let's continue on here. All right, let's go. We've got another question. Here's one from Daryl. What was the biggest thing you did when recording on GarageBand that turned out to be a game changer? Oh, game-changing things in GarageBand. Yes, I'm trying to think back, because it's hard. Once you get into the groove and the swing of it, it's hard to think about what was actually a game. I mean, getting my first Steinberg interface was a game changer, I think. That would have to be it. Like, I've been talking about Steinberg since I had my UR12, UR44, UR22C. Like, I've been in love with these interfaces, and the reason is they are just rock solid and they work, and they give you a high quality, reliable sound every time. They get out of the way, and that's the thing. I think as Mobile Music Pro said before, you just want your hardware to get out of the way so you can get creating, yeah? And it's not a GarageBand specific thing, I guess, but having a good quality interface and a good quality microphone as well. So the ability to just record good quality audio, it just means you're not faffing about with something that's not going to be the best quality. You're just diving straight in and getting creative. So that's probably that. In terms of GarageBand, probably for vocals, making sure I have plenty of delay and reverb on my vocal when I'm recording it. And having the volume of my vocal up louder. So I used to record vocals and probably had the volume down too low, and I would not hit notes and I would not hear what I was singing. These days, I just crush it and turn my volume way up on vocals, and that has actually been a bit of a game changer. So again, not specifically GarageBand, but yeah, in GarageBand, using something like the lead vocals preset when you're recording vocals, that has really helped me out. What is my most favorite genre of music? It depends on the day, the mood, the time. So, for instance, if you saw what I buy and you saw what I do, you wouldn't know what genre of music I like. So, historically, it's been alt rock, so grunge, alternative, punk, heavy metal, hard rock. That sort of thing has been my bread and butter. More recently, as I get older, it is more acoustic. It's folk music, it's acoustic music, it's acoustic rock, it's dad rock. A lot of people call it. I don't mind that. Dad rock's cool. And then I actually like a lot of mellow sounds. So I like a bit of chilled ambient music. I like some smooth jazz. Love me some Dave Brubeck. So yesterday I went to a local record store, which just so happens to be the record store that's been in my area forever. It's Big Star Records. Shout out to Big Star Records, who are not watching this, but shout out to the folks at Big Star. They have been there since back in the day. I used to go there when I was 16 with my earnings for the week. So I made about $100 a week when I was 16. I was working for a fast food chain, and I'd make $100 a week. And at the time, CDs were $30 each. And I would buy 2 CDs a week. So that goes to show you where my priorities lied. It was like $100. It was usually 2 CDs a week, and then $40 left over to, maybe go play some pool or go to McDonald's and buy a Big Mac or whatever. So yeah, 60% of my disposable income went on music. And then when there was a concert in town, well, then I'd have to buy the concert ticket as well. And luckily, concert tickets back then were only about $30 as well. So some weeks I'd buy 2 CDs and a concert ticket and have $10 left to do other things. Or sometimes I'd have to only have 1 CD. I know, the weeks I only got 1 CD were sad, sad weeks. Anyway, I say all that to say that I went in there yesterday. And I'm reading a Phil Collins book at the moment called Not Dead Yet, which is his autobiography, which is amazing, by the way. I'm really loving it. Check it out on Audible, Amazon, find it, all the places. So I'm reading this Phil Collins book. And I was in there, and I walked in, and the first thing I saw was a Phil Collins live DVD. And I'm like, the universe is telling me that I need to get some more Phil Collins into my life. So went, grabbed that DVD, and then I'm looking around at the CDs, and I'm in the jazz section, and I'm like, oh, Dave Brubeck. Like, I had a big Dave Brubeck thing. I mentioned that my favorite jazz artist is Dave Brubeck, and it had a remastered version, a 2 CD set of Time Out, which is my favorite Dave Brubeck album, but I've never actually owned it. I've always had it on streaming, and I've downloaded it on iTunes. I've never had the physical CD of it. I know, a bit weird, but I had the mono and the stereo version. So I wanted to get this so that I can have both versions, because the thing about streaming is usually they just go with the latest and greatest version, and that's not always the one that I want to listen to. Sometimes I do want to listen to the original mono mix of something like the Beach Boys, because they did a lot of stuff in mono, or Dave Brubeck. Anyway, that's getting way off track, so we're going to jump back. But yeah, I like all sorts of music and genre music. Coming on down, Daryl has a question. Oh, just said question. A question here from on Film in Focus. Will your next single album be done mostly on the new M1 with Logic, for instance? I don't know. You tell me. Should I do a song on the M1? I've got a song. I've got 2 songs I'm working on in GarageBand at the moment, actually. But maybe it probably won't be December. December's already half over and is looking pretty full on. So let me know. Maybe in January. Maybe that could be a new year, new Mac, new year. Maybe we do a January song. We haven't actually done a song in a month challenge for a while, so that could be something cool. Maybe we do a Pete's first song on a desktop song in M1 challenge. Let me know if you think that's a good idea. Let's continue on. Oh, sorry, I'm going to have to catch up. We're going to have to do some quick fire answers here because we've only got 20 minutes and we got lots of questions. Question from Kev. Do you find the sheer amount of plugins and apps overwhelming even for a veteran GB like yourself? 100%. I find them super overwhelming, and it's why I don't cover them all. So you might think, oh, I do a lot. It's actually why I started encouraging Jade to do a show. Complete selfishness that I didn't want to have to cover all these apps. And for all of the apps and all of the plugins I do cover on this channel, I probably cover about 10% of what I discover, what people tell me about, what plugin developers contact me about. Because some of them I'll just look at and go, I don't need that in my life right now. It may even be good. There's an app. Sorry, I keep saying to Jade Starr that I keep throwing her under the bus, but there was an app called the Dep-like plugin. It's like an amp simulator, guitar simulator. Because I've checked out Mixbox, I just don't have the time or the energy to check it out. So instead, I put them in touch with Jade and said, hey, Jade might be able to cover this on how to app in the future. But yeah, whenever I open my iPad and I look at this and I just scroll down, like that is overwhelmed city, right? And that's not even much. Like, I have a small plugin collection compared to what a lot of folks have on their iPhones and iPads. So yeah, they're often the reason that I do things so super simple is that I get into overwhelm. The reason I went into iOS in the first place was that I was overwhelmed by Reaper and all of the options that I had in Reaper on my PC. So yeah, and every time I go and try and do something more complicated, I'm not as creative. And that's the key thing here. I think sometimes the tendency is that we go and we look at all the shininess and the bells and whistles, and then we don't get into creating. So, in fact, that's why I think we need to do a song creation month in January. Just like new month, 2021. Let's kick it off. Let's create a song, because yeah, otherwise you can get too deep into the weeds, can't you? It's super easy to get in the weeds and not actually do what you want to do, which is create music. So yes, I agree. Great question indeed. The toolbar, cool. Yeah, that's cool. New to the iOS side. Welcome aboard. And yes, please make sure. Smash the like. Smash them so hard that your fist goes through your phone or your screen or something like that. No, don't do that. As my buddy Mike at Creative Source says, if you liked it, hit the like button. If you didn't like it, hit the dislike button twice. Yeah. He's a funny man. Funny man. Gazzo of Oz question. Bouncing off Kev question. Please, can you do a video for the 5 best most useful free apps and 5 best paid apps? Yeah, so I know that Patrick over at GarageBand Guide is doing his app of the year. So definitely make sure you subscribe to Patrick at the GarageBand Guide, because that's always a fun and interesting time when he does that. Yes, I will in the next at the end of the year, it's classic YouTube content creator behavior. I'll do my best of kind of stuff. So I'm going to do my gear of the year. So I'll do a stream where I talk about the 5 bits of gear that I've been digging the most this year. No surprises. Steinberg's going to feature. So I'll do gear of the year. And then, I like the idea of that. I'll do my top 5 free plugins, and maybe I'll do a separate stream with the top 5 paid plugins of the year. I usually do that sort of in that quiet time, so that that Christmas New Year period, like right towards the end of the year. Mostly because I can just do those as a daily live stream where we just sort of chat and a bit more casual. So good idea. Definitely going to have that in our future. Alrighty. We'll see. We'll scroll on down. Any tip on adding a reference track and aligning it to the bars? It can be tough. Reference tracks can be tough because they don't start right on the button. Yeah. So not really in terms of that. But if you, it depends what you're using the reference track for. It doesn't really need to be aligned to your bars if you're just using it to reference and hear what your mix is sounding like compared to a professional mix. It doesn't need to be in time. But if you're talking about something else related to reference mixing, maybe I'm missing that there. How do you overcome fear? Oh, how do I overcome fear? Yeah, look, we've got 15 minutes, so this could be something I could rant on for 15 minutes. But and one of the things I had in my list here was imposter syndrome and overcoming imposter syndrome and overcoming fear and things in your music. It is hard, whether it's music, whether it's public speaking, whether it's going live on the internet and doing live shows like this. The only answer is practice. I've talked about this before, but I talk about what I like to call the circle of comfort. So you have, this is your comfort zone. So there you go. That's how much comfort zone you may have when you're starting out, right? So if that's your comfort zone, and say this is creating alone in your bedroom when no one's listening. Like most of us can do that, yeah? That's where you start out with that little circle of comfort where you're creating alone in your bedroom. No one's listening to you. No one can hear your music. Look, that's really hard to do at the moment because we're all kind of living on top of each other. But if you just try to expand that out and you suddenly go, now I'm going to live stream or now I'm going to play at an open mic night, that's like a balloon. You're going to blow up your comfort circle too quickly and it's going to pop. So what I say is do small steps, chunk it down and do small steps to increase your comfort zone. So when I first started out, I was in my walk-in cupboard over there recording my music. No, I didn't want to play it to anyone, didn't want anyone to listen to it. Felt super nervous about sharing anything. So that was my first step. I then started recording and I wanted to release a song. So before I even did much of this, I recorded my music and then started mixing it. I created this channel where me and 50 people at the time would see what I was creating and producing, and I'd start sharing it with those folks. And that was in pre-recorded videos where I'd have to do 7 or 8 takes to get it right. No live stuff. I'd do 7 or 8 takes to get it right, and even then it would not be right and didn't have any editing skills at all. Looked and sounded pretty awful. And then as I was continuing to do that, every time I did it though, it got easier. So every time I did something that pushed my comfort zone out, it goes like this, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's the same like once I started doing live streams. I wasn't going to do no 1 hour ask me anything could happen live stream. No, I started out with like 10-minute and 15-minute single topic that I had rehearsed and planned, and I jump on here and talk for 10 or 15 minutes. Moving into what I'm doing now took a long time to do. So the only real advice, the only real way I've found to do this is to practice and to keep doing it. So it's like muscle memory, but for your confidence. So you want to keep doing it because the biggest thing with fear is that when you start doing something, if you are an overthinker, hands up, who's an overthinker? If you're an overthinker, then you're thinking about the worst case scenario. You're doing what I call catastrophizing. You're worrying about the worst possible thing that's going to happen rather than going, hey, there's a 99% chance that this is going to be fine. And even if it goes bad, it's not going to be as bad as I think it's going to be. But we get into this cycle of worry, this cycle of fear, and that's where we actually get caught up. And instead of, by the time that you're actually doing the thing, you're not worrying about the fact that you can't do the thing. You're worrying about the fact that you might worry about doing the thing. And it becomes cyclical. It's like this cycle of worry that can hurt. But yeah, maybe we'll do another one all about fear and all about how to overcome that and get creating, because it's a tough one. And the other thing is join the Create, Record, Release Facebook group. Like even if you're not a Facebook user, because having other people around you, having a group of like-minded people doing the same stuff you're doing can really, really help out. You're not alone in this stuff. Don't go it alone. Have a support network to help you for sure. Mac arrived in real time. There you go. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the M1 club. That is good. That is good. Yeah, yeah. We got the heck yeah. We got the heck yeahs from 3 topics ago. Absolutely. Question is, do you know what trap metal is? No. If not, trap metal is kind of like metal, except it's more heavy and brutal. Maybe after you can go search it up. Maybe I only just learnt what trap beats were. The amount of people that were like, dude, I made a cool trap beat. And I'm like, that's lovely. I've got no idea what a trap beat is. And then I had to look that up because I'm an old man. Silent Gaming says, I make drill beats. Even though I believe it isn't your genre of music, could you do a tutorial on how to mix them? Or does general mixing cater to all genres? Yeah, so there are. I don't do a lot of EDM or any electronic music styles, mostly because there are a heap. There's the reason I started doing what I'm doing is there aren't as many people covering how to mix and master and release acoustic, electric, guitar type music, rock music, metal music. There is a lot of people that are producing beats on GarageBand and on Beatmaker and on other things. So I'd check out folks like Shazam the producer, Henny the business, Jakob Hack. There's a heap of great YouTube content for folks who are creating more electronic style music. So yeah, check those out. But it doesn't mean I won't try it in the future. It just means that for right now, I've got a lot going on. Let's go. What's the best project you worked on this year, and what do you enjoy about creating music, and what are your plans for next year music-wise? Best project I've ever worked on this year. That's a really good one. Best project I've worked on this year was probably my EP called Maybe. That was one I did earlier in the year because that one was really kind of special to me. It was the first one that had Jade Starr drumming on a bunch of tracks that I was collaborating. It was where I accepted my limitations. So that's probably the biggest thing that I learned this year, and the biggest thing that's helped me enjoy things is that I don't have to be the one-man band. I don't have to do everything myself. I can get help and guidance from others, and doing that was a good thing. Plans for next year music-wise, I haven't made them yet, to be really honest. Because I'm focusing pretty heavily on video production at the moment, I don't have a music goal for 2021 as such. I do want to produce more music, I know that much, but I haven't actually worked out what that means. Yeah, the one thing I do want to do is create a second artist and start doing some more experimental instrumental music, as well as what I'm doing with my singer-songwriter stuff. Metalhead hippie in the house. In my opinion, what's the best mixer under 400 and the best interface 250 and under? So the best mixer under 400. Now I use the Zoom Live Track L8, which until I got my Mac M1, I would have said hands down is the best mixer. It's $399, so it's right in that price point. It does a great job. Problem is at the moment, it doesn't have a driver for Mac OS 11. So if you're on a Mac and you're on Big Sur, then it ain't going to work for you. So keep that in mind, but I would use it other than that. I don't have one, but I'm thinking of getting one, which is the Yamaha MG series. They're a very reliable mixer, the MG10 or the MG12, really good quality mixer, Yamaha D preamps, 24-bit audio, USB connectivity, everything you need. In terms of audio interfaces, I love Steinberg, so I always lean on the Steinberg UR22C. It's about $190 interface, 2-channel, again the Yamaha D preamps, 24-bit, well, actually up to 32-bit, up to 192 kilohertz sample rate, just really good quality, solid audio interface. And if you are in the market for said audio interface and mixers and any other gear, that's where you need to go. studiolivetoday.com/gear. All my gear recommendations are over there. All right, how are we on time? We only got 7 minutes, so I'm not going to get to everyone's questions here today. But the good news is, in 2 days' time, we have home studio Q&A. So rock up in 48 hours' time. If you don't get your question answered here, then today, then please do come on back, and we will answer you then. I've got a question. How do you make a piano swell on BandLab? Please, I need an answer. I don't know. Piano swell. So like I use the piano swell. You get a piano sound, a piano chord, you reverse the sound, and then sometimes you put some reverb on it too. So you get the piano effect, add reverb, export that as a wave, flip it around so the reverb's at the front, and do that. You can do that with cymbal swells, any swell you want to create. Get the track, get the audio, add some reverb, reverse it, and then add it in. So how exactly you do that, go and check Mike over on Creative Source. He does a lot of BandLab stuff, so he's probably covered that before, but I don't use BandLab, so therefore I don't know, and I'm accepting of my limitation. Matthias Wong says, question, how do you make beats and your channel be known faster? Yeah, so I talked about channel growth at the very start. So it's about two-way open and honest communication. How do you make your beats and your channel? Yeah, so it is. It's about interaction and engagement, my friend. So interacting with folks, engaging with other people is the way to do it. Oh, we got the same question a lot of times, but thank you to my my moderators who are helping out there. Yeah, please, if you got a question, just ask it once. I'm a little bit vindictive like that. If you ask a question 4 times, I'll definitely not answer it, as opposed to it having more chance of being answered. Are you able to pitch drop in GarageBand? Yes, there's a plugin called AU New Pitch. If you search my name, Pete John's Pitch Change, it will be a video showing how to do that. Jeff says, will you have a reduced show schedule over the holidays? Probably not. If anything, it'll probably be more because I'm a bit crazy like that. No. So there'll be a few time changes just because of Christmas Day and New Year's Day falling on particular days this year. But yeah, the same sort of thing. For the next 6 weeks, it is school holidays here in Australia, so we'll have the kids around, so it may just reduce the amount of time that I do a lot of the shows, so it may have some slight modifications, but most of the stuff I do is first thing in the morning as it is here now. So yeah, shouldn't. Do I have a Discord? No, but I want to learn Discord because I think, yeah, there you go. Question, do you have it? I want to learn how to use Discord because I've not used it. I've heard it's good. Need to learn how to use Twitch too. Let's continue on. We're getting ready, by the way. We're getting ready to have I'll get the link ready for you actually. I'll grab it here. I'm going to go to the Create, Record, Release group because that's where I know I've shared it. There it is. So Thomas Rochelle, I'll copy that link. Thomas Rochelle, or Thomas Christ as he's known as, and Jade Star will be on Jade's channel in just 4 minutes time and counting. So I'm going to paste it. I think Jade's already pasted it there. Oh no, that didn't paste it well at all. It pasted that weird long Facebook link. So I'm just going to have to copy and paste it in. So there you go. Get yourself ready to get over there. We're going to finish up here in like 2 minutes, and then you can jump on over to that one. Question from Redacted. Have you tried iPad streaming in QuickTime on your Mac? Open QuickTime Player. No windows will open. Go to the menu bar. File. New movie recording. There you go. I haven't, but I need to. So thank you for that. I will try that because I was playing around with Reflector last night and it was working. But when I bought Reflector, I bought the PC version, not the universal version. So yeah, that was a bit rough. Would you rather use FL Studio or GarageBand? Would I use GarageBand? Because it's what I use. So that's what I go with. Hey Pete, how do I avoid interference or static when I use iRig 2 to plug a piano and record to GarageBand? Yeah, it's hard to avoid interference and static on an iRig 2. You may need to investigate an iRig HD, unfortunately. What little portable speaker do we recommend for the Cord MicroKey Air 62? I don't really use many portable speakers. I have a little Logitech UE speaker. So any little Bluetooth speaker that has aux in is probably going to be your best bet. Now, I know I'm missing a lot. I'm about 10 minutes ago in the chat. So I'm going to have missed a whole bunch of people. Hello, Capsalam. Thanks for being here. Hello to everyone for being here. The good news is, yeah, Jade and Tom have posted it. There you go. So the good news is that you've got another bunch of content. You've got the interview with Jade and Tom coming up in a couple of minutes. So we're going to say our goodbyes, and there we're going to finish up here. Binny Sandhu. I'll answer this one as probably the last question here. Noisy environment, weak voice, under £100 budget. Which microphone should I be spending my cash on? Sorry, joined late. No idea if this has been asked. No, we haven't talked microphones, so we will finish off on that. So, the Audio-Technica AT2020, my friend. It's a $100, around £100 microphone from Audio-Technica. The reason I recommend that is, now, here's the thing. Noisy environment and weak voice, that's the only drawback here, is that it will pick up a lot of background noise. So because it's super sensitive, it's going to really help your voice. If you've got a softer, weaker voice, it's going to really help bring that out. But the problem is going to be for you is that it will pick up a lot of that background ambient sound as well. The other option you have is either an AKG D5 or a Shure SM58, which is just a vocal handheld microphone. that it won't give you as much volume though. So it's a trade-off, yeah? If the volume is more important, if getting as much signal in there because you've got a quiet voice, AT2020, and it's not terrible for noise rejection, by the way. If you make sure you're at least in a slightly less noisy place, it'll be fine. But if noise is your biggest issue and you don't mind having to turn it up a little bit or get a bit closer up on the mic, then AKG D5 or SM58 is what I'd go with. Alrighty, I apologise for having to run. Thank you, Justin. I love your work too. Following for 3 years, stay inspired. I will definitely try to stay inspired. And if you would like more inspiration, as I said, head over to Jade Starr's channel now. She's about to hit live on interviewing Thomas Christ. That should be a fun interview. I'll be over there in the chat as well. We've got a heap more coming up. This is just the beginning. So tomorrow, Your Music Live, same bat time, same bat place. Make sure you tune in for that one. That's a heck of a lot of fun every week. Then got Home Studio Q&A, so more opportunities for you to ask questions on Home Studio Q&A. And then we've got the Happy Hour and GarageBand Weekly, so another big bunch of shows to come up. If you want more information or if you want to learn more things, head on over to studiolivetoday.com. That is going to do it. I'm going to let you go, jump over to Jade's channel now, and enjoy. Please be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, keep creating